for joining this lightning talk at the 2022 Code for All Summit. I'm Vanja Pantic, Communications Lead at CitizenLab, an all-in-one digital community engagement platform. In this session, we're going to explore how civic tech enables more successful community engagement based on our learnings from the cities we work with around the world. Picture this. You recently heard that your city will receive funding for a variety of infrastructure projects. You immediately think of a highly utilized and yet extremely dangerous intersection right at the core of your own community. In fact, your kids bike through it to get to school, your elderly neighbor passes in between to get to the grocery store from their senior housing, and your spouse jogs there every day after work. You look up how to put this intersection on your city's radar, but it requires you to leave work early in order to make it in time for the town hall meeting where you need to submit paper documentation of your request. So you put it off to the side. Your city leaders meet the following week, and having only heard from 5 people at the recent town hall meeting, they prioritize repaving part of the highway. This isn't all that unusual. In fact, about 80% of residents want to participate more actively, and yet their leaders only typically hear from the same 10 people. Now imagine, what if your city had a digital community engagement platform on which they launched this infrastructure project, shared information about the funding they were receiving, and asked the community for ideas on how to spend the money? You could easily submit your idea on your own time from the comfort of your home or your commute and tag it on a map to ensure location accuracy. Then your neighbors could comment or vote on your idea to help prioritize it. And from there, your city officials could easily see all of the submitted ideas, easily process the data, and quickly allocate funding based on the community needs. This is possible. In fact, it's already happening. CitizenLab has worked with over 300 governments in more than 18 countries on their community engagement initiatives. So today we're going to explore how civic tech is enabling them. First, it does so by helping to build a culture of engagement. Governments are overwhelmed, community members are busy, and yet they both ultimately want the best for their city. To spend the time needed to build a culture of engagement internally within government teams and externally within communities, we need fast solutions that are efficient, easy to use, and yet still meaningful. Our solution at CitizenLab removes a lot of the barriers that would otherwise be there. In the end, cities that work with us see an average 12-time increase in their resident engagement and a 55% decrease in the amount of time they spend on analysis and reporting. That's important because it enables number 2, being creative and trying something new. When governments are able to spend less time on things like data processing, they can spend more time on continuous engagement and thinking outside of the box to get their community's interest. Here are 2 examples from our network. On the left, you have an example from the city of Philadelphia in the United States. Pictured is a pop-up engagement event in the South Street district that was held by our 3 partners that we worked with there. They were holding a placemaking project in order to capture stories and memories from South Street, from residents and visitors and business owners alike. They had an engagement platform, but they also provided in-person options like this one, where people could submit their stories on paper, which the team then uploaded also to the platform. In the background of the photo is a bicycle that they rode around in order to get people's attention and invite them over to the table. On the right side is a picture of people sitting in some very high, colorful chairs. This is the city of Ghent in Belgium. They used these chairs to attract people to the community engagement project, but also to invite them to look at their city from a different perspective in order to be able to contribute differently to the neighborhood budgeting project that they were running. And finally, a civic tech tip that we have is actually to combine online and offline engagement methods. Some of our most successful cities do this. There are many reasons your community members may not engage in city projects. It could be time, finances, or something completely different. Civic tech can help address some of the barriers that exist, but it is not an end-all solution, especially in communities heavily impacted by digital divides. That's why we encourage combining online and offline engagement methods to ensure that you can reach as many people as possible. For instance, by offering street pop-ups like the one I just showed, or offering in-person surveys that you then upload to your platform, you can encourage more participation. You could also consider creating stations around your city, such as at City Hall or in public libraries with tablets and computers to encourage engagement. Here's another example, one of combining online and offline participation. The Youth for Climate movement in Belgium started organizing protests for climate action in cities across Belgium. Thousands upon thousands of people showed up, and they had great ideas, but no way to capture them. And so the organizers used a CitizenLab platform and captured 1,738 ideas for climate action. They were also then able to use our natural language processing technology in order to summarize those ideas into 15 points for their decision makers. Talk about effective policy action. So great, civic tech can enable a lot around engagement, but what doesn't work? What are the lessons that our cities have learned? There are two things I want to highlight. One is staying at the shallow end of engagement and never moving up the participation ladder. Here, if you look at the engagement ladder, you'll see that things like surveys and polls are the very beginning. They're great for certain things, but they shouldn't be long-term solutions, and they shouldn't be the only engagement method that a city uses. This quick tech solution doesn't go deep enough to show full nuances for all projects. For instance, let's say you ask people if they're interested in a new park in their area, and they vote no. Let's say 75 people voted no. With deeper engagement, you might find that 50 of those people who voted no actually do want a new park. They just didn't like the proposed location for it. It's important to have deeper engagement for these deeper nuances. The second piece is about closing feedback loops. Civic tech can only enable so much. You can run the most perfect participation process for your project, but if you don't update your participants, your community, on the progress that was made, on the decisions that have been made, and on the final results, they can't see the value of their engagement. It's really important to close these feedback loops to encourage continuous engagement. Community engagement can mean a world of difference when developing policies and programs that meet the rapidly changing needs of our times. Launching and maintaining these efforts takes a lot of work, but civic tech tools can propel governments and communities of all sizes towards more inclusive, participatory, and responsive decision-making. If you're interested in learning more about CitizenLab, please visit our website at citizenlab.co. Thank you.